Gentlelady yields back. And I now recognize Representative Brian Mast of Florida for 5 minutes.
Thank you, ambassadors. Thank you, General. Thank you, Chairman, for yielding me the time. Some of you have answered some questions. Some of you have answered other questions. I want to ask a few new ones and repeated a few the old questions and kind of get a survey, because not everybody's answered the same question. A little bit of survey in the affirmative or the negative about how you feel about some of the different occurrences.
We lost you, Mr. Mast. Mr. Mast, we lost you.
No.
Now you're
Can
back.
you hear me now?
Now we hear you.
All right. Perfect. I'm glad I'm back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to go down the line in alphabetical order with Ambassador Armitage, then Crocker, then Lute, and then General McMaster, so we don't step on each other. We'll do it in alphabetical order. Going back before...
I think we've lost you again. Mr. Mast. I think we lost you again, Mr. Mast.
I wish I knew why. It says I got full internet here.
I don't know. Let's try it again. Go ahead.
Let's try again.
The question.
Oh, I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. We didn't lose too much. I wanted to ask, President Biden said on inauguration, I'm going to make mistakes. When I make them, I will acknowledge them and I will tell you. Do you all believe that he's acknowledged his mistakes with Afghanistan? Ambassador Armitage?
No, Mr. Mast, I don't. I think he's acknowledged his rather valiant decision to get out, which took some courage, but it was the total evacuation was totally foobar, and I don't think many people have owned up to that yet.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ambassador Crocker?
I agree completely.
Thank you, sir. Ambassador Lute?
The president has said a couple of times the buck stops here, but it's not clear what happens to the buck after it stops with the president. So I haven't seen sort of corrective action that would indicate good moves.
Yes, sir. General?
No, I don't think so. I have never, I don't think ever seen such a disconnect between what our leaders tell us about what's happening in Afghanistan during this crisis and what was actually happening on the ground. And I think that hypocrisy has reached kind of unprecedented levels. In the same speech announcing our adherence to the timeline that we gave to the Taliban as part of our capitulation agreement, saying that human rights were an important part of our policy, for example, and the list goes on. So I think it's tremendously disappointing.
Thank you, General. Want to move to a different date, April 9th. Office of Director of National Intelligence released its annual threat assessment where they said the Taliban is likely to make gains on the battlefield and the Afghan government will struggle to hold the Taliban at bay if the coalition withdraws support. Do you all believe that President Biden received that report?
It would be hard for me to believe, Congressman, that he hadn't received it, because we had been saying things of that nature as a bureaucracy since 2005, 2006, and it only got worse.
Ambassador Crocker?
I know little of how Washington works. I wish I knew even less. Hard for me to believe he would not be aware of that.
Thank you, sir.
It'd be my assumption he knew as well.
Thanks, sir. General?
I don't know. I just don't know what the process is that's being used to give the president best analysis and to give the president multiple options with an assessment of the advantages and disadvantages of those options. I don't know.
Thank you, General. Want to move to another date. April 14th, President Biden announced that we would withdraw from Afghanistan by September 11th, the anniversary. Do you believe that choosing that day was about optics? Ambassador Armitage.
Congressman, I believe that picking September 11th was waving a red flag in front of a bull.
Ambassador Crocker.
I felt like I had received a physical blow when he named that date. That 20 years after the horrors of 9/11 that we all witnessed, that he would choose that date over all others for the final U.S. evacuation. And I think he realized it too eventually and changed the calendar.
Yeah, I have no basis to judge why that date was picked. It certainly didn't make sense.
General?
I think it was an affront to all those who served, and I think that making that announcement as he did in Area 60 of Arlington Cemetery really reveals kind of an astonishing misunderstanding of what it means to serve in our military, and the fact that soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines don't want to be pitied. What they want is they want leaders who are dedicated to achieving an outcome that's worthy of the sacrifices that they make in war. I think it's worth pointing out that September 11th is exactly the anniversary the Taliban wanted. For anybody who missed it, the Taliban ran on all television stations in Kabul a show called Victoria Force 3, where it blamed the United States for 9/11, for bringing the attacks on themselves, and again denied the fact that Al Qaeda had any role.
I thank you all for your answers, Mr. Chairman. I believe my time has expired.